Hello and welcome everyone to my YouTube channel Philosophy Simplified. So in pre-Socratic philosopher series, we are going to discuss the first philosopher, that is Thales. So Thales was the first person in ancient Greece to challenge the Greek mythology and rejected the mythological explanations of different phenomena and instead provide the rational arguments. He was so talented that he was considered as one of the seven sages of ancient Greece because he was popular for his practical wisdom and ethical maxims. He was considered as the founder of Malaysian school and being the first philosopher. Sometimes on lighter note, he was also treated as the founder of Western philosophy. But the systematic philosophy begins with Plato. So in strict sense, Plato should be considered as the father of philosophy. Socrates should be considered as the father of ethics. Aristotle should be considered as father of logic. In similar case, Thales should be considered as the first philosophers, not as father of philosophy. They are considered as philosophers just because their methodology is grounded in rationality. That is why they are considered as philosophers. Otherwise, they are in modern context. They are geologists, geographists, physicists, because they have very wider interests. Let's see their contributions. Thales was famous for his view that water is the fundamental principles and out of which everything originated. Everything, the whole phenomenal world, had its roots in water. In simple words, we can say that water is the primary stuff out of which everything emerges, whether it is in solid form or liquid form or gaseous form. It is water that transforms himself into all these stages. This idea was revolutionary because it attempted to identify a single natural element as the source of all things. We look at the phenomenal world. We see diverse objects. But according to Thales, all these diversity has its source in water. According to Thales, the shape of earth is like a log or piece of wood that is floating on the water. So Thales of Miletus is credited with being the first philosopher to offer natural explanations for the universe working, moving away from mythological or supernatural interpretations. His approach laid the foundation for Western philosophy, particularly in its emphasis on observations and reasons. As we know the fact that there is 71% water on the earth. Same is observed by Thales. That is why he declared that the water should be the fundamental principles. So he comes to this conclusion that water should be the fundamental principles by observing the nature. This is the only reasons they are considered as naturalistic philosophers. And from metaphysical point of view, Thales was a monist, because Thales' philosophy exemplifies monisms, the belief that all of reality can be reduced to one basic substance. His choice of the water as the principle reflects his search for a unifying principles to explain the world complexity in terms of a single source. His focus on unity influenced later philosophers like Anaximander, Anaximenes, Heraclitus, who tries to explain the cosmos through a central principle. His significant contribution was his attempt to explain natural phenomena through rational means rather than attributing them to the whims of God. He believed that natural processes like the flooding of rivers or the movement of celestial body should be understood by human reasons. This shift from mythology to reasonings marked a crucial moment in intellectual history, promoting the idea that the universe operates according to discoverable laws. In his other contributions, Thales also predicted the solar eclipse in 580 BCE. His predictions was significant because it suggested that astronomical events could be anticipated through observations and calculations rather than being seen as arbitrary or divine intervention we seen in the Greek mythology. He also devised the method to measure the height of pyramids. During the daytimes, there was a time when the shadow of an object is equal to the height of that object. So during that times we can measure the height of pyramids as well. He also invented the device named as gnomons, which help us to measure the time. Thales also made contributions to geometry, especially through his application of deductive reasonings. One of his most famous achievements is Thales' theorems, which states that if a triangle is inscribed in a circle with one of its sides as the diameter, then the triangle will always be a right triangle. This was among the first known use of deductive proof in geometry. As we discussed earlier, that Thales accepted that water is a fundamental principle. He also said that everything is full of gods. So everything is composed of waters. That means water is living principles. I mean water possess life. This view is popularly known as hyllogisms. So Thales was a hyllogist. According to him, the single principle, which is water, is a living principle. So basically he said that a divine power is present in the element of water by which it moves all things. To sum up these lectures, we can say that Thales was first philosopher. He belongs to pre-Socratic schools. He belongs to Malaysian school. He was a naturalistic philosopher. He said that water is the fundamental stuff. He was also called as hyllogist, contributed in the field of mathematics, astronomy, engineering. In today's world, if we have to classify Thales' philosophy, he is not considered as philosophers, rather than he was considered as a geologist, geographist, physicist, engineers. But we still consider him as a philosopher. Why? Because his whole observations, whole contributions has its ground in rationality, reasonings. Posed all these concepts by refuting the Greek mythological opinions, by giving logical arguments, why it became necessary to consider him as first philosopher. Thanks for watching.